Last week we talked about walking in love. This week we're going to be talking about walking in the light. Last week we talked about two things. The first thing was that we are partakers of his divine nature. Okay, just think about that. Those that may not have been here last week, we talked about his divine nature and that we as children of God get to partake of that. That, if you just meditate on that the rest of the week, that right there would just probably change your life. Humanity, because of God, has the opportunity to be partakers of the divine presence of God. And the second thing we looked at, which was we are beloved. Okay? And I didn't share with us the definition of that. But in the Greek, in 27, it says, beloved means beloved, esteemed, dear, favorite, and worthy of love. Think about that. Beloved, esteemed, dear, favorite, and worthy of love. And last week I shared how that word beloved that he uses toward us is the same word, same definition that he used to describe his son, Jesus, when the Father was speaking, when Jesus was being baptized. Just let that soak in. Beloved, esteemed, dear, favorite, and worthy of love. If I had opportunity, we could dive into or chase that rabbit trail of, am I really worthy of being loved? The Father says yes. You may battle in your mind, or people may say that you're not, but the Father says, God of the universe, who created all heavens and earth, who created you, says you are worthy of love. That you're his favorite. I don't know how that works. That you are esteemed. You are dear to him. And that you're beloved. As I said, we're going to talk about where Paul, last week we talked about walking in love. This week we're talking about walking in light. And I want to read 5 scriptures to kind of prime us to get us into this short talk. And chapter 5, verse 7 through 11 says, therefore do not be partakers with them. Now, the first 6 verses outline attitudes, actions of sin where the church was in. They were partaking of things that the world was. And Paul writes, he says, therefore do not be partakers with them, for you were formerly darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the light consists in all goodness and righteousness and truth, trying to learn what is pleasing to the Lord. Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead expose them. There are 2 reminders that I want to talk about tonight. And the first one is in verse 8 where it says, we are called out of darkness. He says, for you were formerly darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. I want you to think about that because it says you were darkness. Let's not gloss over that. Sin nature is a part of who we are. But God steps in and he says, you were formerly darkness, but because of accepting him and allowing the blood of Christ to wash away sin, and that we now sit in the righteousness of Christ, nothing that we've done, nothing that we can do, but puts us in right standing. We were formerly darkness. Paul writes in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, he says, but you are a chosen race. Think about these words. This is I think it's very impactful. Because a lot of times, if I can take a moment to jog to the left, there are so many people who struggle with identity, and they struggle with who they are in this world. Some struggle with who they are in Christ. Anxiety issues. But the Father writes and he says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession. That means we belong to him. So that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. That, fam, is the great exchange. He steps into our lives and he calls us out of darkness and exchanges it with his marvelous light. Just let that soak in for a minute. When we were singing, I had written down, and you can see it whenever it's up on the screen, it says, this is the great exchange. I crossed it out and put beautiful, because I thought that would be more apropos to what he is doing in our lives. It is a beautiful exchange. Because if you are in a dark place, or if you are in darkness, what happens is it's not a beautiful place. At least I don't know about y'all. I mean, my BC days, though I was having fun, it was not a beautiful place. I know people, say, Pastor Joseph, what do you mean you was having fun? Listen, don't let nobody lie to you. Sin is fun. That's the reason why it's hard to stop. But when God steps in, there's that exchange of that darkness with his light. And it's that beautiful exchange. This is the understanding of our position with darkness. There's two things I want us to look at. I want us to acknowledge the position we have in relationship to darkness. And then second, in a moment, we're going to talk about the action we should take. Our position should be one that we're sitting in a place where we are in his marvelous light. Not on the edge, not trying to, get close to the edge. We should be sitting at a place where we're standing in the light of Christ, and we are walking in a way that is upright and in a way that is not only upright, but pleasing to his sight. That's our position. Reminder 2. Paul says in so many terms, so many words, He says, run away. Now I know you're going to say, Pastor Joseph, I didn't read that in there. I kind of condensed it. Verse 4, he says, there must be no. He says, no, don't do it. Verse 7, he says, do not be partakers. And verse 11, he says, do not participate. He says, don't do it. He says, don't participate. In my mind, I can only think of run away. We will read, next week we'll talk about wisdom, where it says that we are to uncover. And there's a way you can do that and still stay back and not be a part. But Paul tells us, he says, do not be partakers. He says, do not participate. And this is the understanding of our action with darkness. We are to disconnect and not be a part of it in our personal lives. We are to disconnect and not allow it to be a part of our lives. See, if I can run a rabbit trail and paint a picture of how the church looks toward the world, this in part is one of the reasons why we have people that don't believe Christians. They don't believe the gospel. They don't believe the Bible, because Christians do not always run away. They engage. I've talked with many people, streets, campuses, wherever. And there are some that say, why should I be a part of the church when what you're doing and I'm doing is the same thing? Why should I be a Christian? As Christians, we're supposed to turn away. We're supposed to run away, if we can use that terminology. We're supposed to flee. We're supposed to get up out of there. Break left. I don't know whatever terminology you want to use, get up out of there. Our lives should not look the same as those who are unsaved. When you walk into a room, because there's marvelous light in you, it should cause darkness. Well, let's look at it this way. Darkness should have an anxiety attack, not you. Darkness should be fleeing. Darkness should feel unstable. People should look at you and they may not say, man, you look like a big beacon of light. You look like a Christian. No, they may not say that. But they may say, you know, there's something different about you. Why aren't you doing what everybody else is doing? I remember when I was in Dallas, I had a business, a design company, and I would go to the chamber. I was a member of like 5 or 6 chambers in the area. I was trying to drum up business. You know, you go to the chamber events and you go there and you try to get people to hire you out, because I used to do different projects and things like that. And I would go to I had one guy that was mentoring me. He said, Joe, you're gonna get more business if you go to the 5 at 5s. And I said, what the 5 at 5? He said, man, at 5 o'clock it's happy hour. He said, and that's what people do. They go to the different sports bars, different bars. I would go to these events, and they had the little high top tables, and there's wines, and little things like that, adult beverages. And I'm like, yeah, we know what's in that glass. And I had a person walk up to me. I had been in the chambers for about a year. And she had always been trying to sell me credit card, those little swipey thingies. And I thought, man, here she come again, man, try to sell me something. And she walked up to me and she said, what's in your glass? I said, girl, I got Sprite. She said, yeah, I noticed you don't drink. Why? And it was an opportunity to share faith with her. It was an opportunity because, and I didn't even know she was looking at me. I thought, she just trying to sell me whatever her business was. But the world should be able to look at your life and see that there's something different. They should be able to look at your life and say, man, there's just something a little different about that person. Because the Bible tells us that it's his marvelous light that draws all men. Think about that. When you walk into a place, it is the light of God that will draw people to you. Not anything really you doing, but what is inside of you so that you can share the gospel. So that you can be one who demonstrates his glory. Sad to say, there are some Christians that you be looking at them and you go, I can't tell, I can't tell any of y'all apart. That should never be. They should be able to tell us apart. They should be able to see that we're just different. Nothing wrong with being different. I want us to get in our tables and two questions. What does it mean to be called out of darkness? I want us to talk about that. I want us to really talk about what does it mean to be called out of darkness. Because as I was putting this together and I was putting together these questions, I had a thought. And that thought is, there possibly could be somebody here that has no idea what that means, but somebody sitting at the table understands that. See, that's the reason why we have table talk. Because there could be somebody that's just like, man, yeah, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to look dumb, feel dumb, but I really don't understand that. So I want to encourage us to really, let's just not hit the top of it and be surface, but let's go deep. And the second one is, how do you avoid the things of darkness? That's a huge question. That's a huge thing. Because if I scan the room, I would say the majority of you do not work in a Christian or church setting. And so the majority of you are faced every day with darkness. You're faced every day with people that are not Christians. And you may be a person that you try, and then all of a sudden you go, I'll just join on in. Somebody else may be able to say, well, this is how I avoid it. This is what I do. I know when I was working like when I had my company, I would go to the bathroom because ain't nobody gonna bother you in there. I'd just be like, okay, Lord, it's just me and you again. Oh, he's gonna have some drunk folk up in here. They're gonna be doing this and that. I just need to get a project. I'm just trying to make some bills. What do you do? What do you do when you're in a situation where you may not want to be there or you're tempted? Let's look at it the other way. You might be a person that says, that red wine sure look red. It look good. Ooh, I just like the way they put that garnish on the top. And then they put a little bit of that clear stuff in there. Or whatever, I don't know. How do you avoid it? How do you avoid darkness in your life? How do you avoid not clicking on the things that you know you shouldn't be clicking on? How do you avoid not going along with everyone else? Somebody sitting next to you may need that information.